I'm going to direct you to page 52, which talks a little bit about additional developments. This gives the right to the concessionaire to develop airspace above the parking garages or develop parking garages or assets on any of the surface parking lots. By this agreement, we're granting them the right to do that. They have to do it consistent with existing laws and zoning codes. And they have put a provision in here that 5% of the net distributions from the operations of any of those additional development assets will come back to the parking authority.
We've just watched Andrew Giorgio explain what the consideration of the concessionaire, which is HPP, will pay the city of Harrisburg and the parking authority for the air rights above the garages. It's a little confusion here what Andrew said. It seems to be that he said that the city would receive 5% of net proceeds, and that is in the case that HPP builds on top of the parking garages. And let's say, for an example, they build a restaurant and they spend $1 million building this restaurant. And at the end of the first year, the restaurant generates $100,000 in profit. So you would think, net profit, after all depreciation expenses and everything, you would think that the city would share in $5,000, 5% of what the net proceeds are of the $100,000 net profit from the restaurant, whatever else is built there, office space, retail space, whatever it is. Well, let's watch Jacob Frydman. And let's watch Jacob explain what that percentage is.
So if there is an economic opportunity to develop the air rights, either above the garages or above the parking lots, that's what we will do at our cost. And if we do that, then we also pay the city 5% of any net income above a 10% return to equity. So if we're making money, the city's making money. And it's all audited and it's all open for audit, and that is throughout the entire concession period.
Jacob goes on and he describes the air rights at that point of the city will get a return of 5%, but not 5% of the net profit. It's 5% of the net profit after HPP takes their up to 10% equity on their original investment. Just for an example, let's say that HPP spends $1 million building something on the roof of the garage. It provides income profit of $100,000 in its first year. $1,100,000, 10% profit. Well, all that $100,000 would go to HPP. That's what it states in the contract. So the city in that case, even though HPP made $100,000, the city would get nothing. They would get no return at all. Now, if that asset on the roof of the garage provided income of $110,000 a year on $1 million investment, or 11%, the first 10%, which would be $100,000, goes to HPP. The second 1%, which is $10,000, will be split with the city and HPP, with HPP taking 95% of that. So, in essence, in a deal structured, just for an example, if a profit returned of $110,000, HPP would get $109,500, and the city of Harrisburg, after a profit of $110,000 to HPP, would receive $500. So now watch as we go to Jacob. When questioned by Linda Thompson about this return, Jacob explains it one more time. So this is the third time we've heard from Andrew Giorgio, we've heard from Jacob Frydman, and now we're hearing from Jacob Frydman again. And every time we hear what is the return for the air rights, it's different. Now listen to what Jacob has to say.
When you talk about the air rights and having the right to build on top, have you thought that through in terms of whether you would put restaurants on top of the garages? Because certainly you had to factor that in, particularly if this whole deal is to ensure profitability and how you maximize the profit yet manage, ongoing debt, new debt, maintaining the operating expenses of the Harrisburg Parking Authority as it relates to its employees, management, etc. Have you thought about that whole air right opportunity? Because it certainly would be an opportunity.
The answer is we've thought about it, but not as thoughtfully as you might think.
Okay.
Our focus has really been on the existing system, and so what we've thought about is that there is an opportunity and that that opportunity has some value, and it's been put into our number. And we've recognized that should we be lucky enough to be able to use those air rights, then we would pay the city an additional fee. And that fee would be 5% each and every year of all the income that's made off of any of that developable air. So we have thought about it, and we've recognized that there is a benefit there. We haven't quantified the benefit other than to say that we should share with the city 5% of the profits from it.
Well, that was generous, but, you know.
You can have more if you want to put up some of the capital.
Well, I was going to say, you know, I mean, with council having the deciding factor in this, we may want to do some amendments to this document and say, hey, we want 10%.
No problem. We're happy to reduce the price 10%.
No, we didn't say reduce. We said add on.
No, add on 10% of that, and we'll reduce 10% off of the 215.
No, we won't do that.
You know, did you see Randy King laughing when Jacob said that we didn't think it as thoroughly as you'd have thunk or whatever it was? And that's a pretty humorous statement because, I mean, they've got teams. Earlier, Jacob stated that this White and Chase firm that they hired is not the most prominent law firm in the world, the top 3 in the world. So to have somebody say that, we didn't think that part through, but in the contract it says that you get 5% after a net return of 10% back to HPP, leaving then the profit of net profit, not gross profit, but net profit. I think that you indeed did think it thoroughly through.